Welcome, everyone. Today we're exploring something that touches so many lives, starting over in a new country. And it's often painted as this exciting adventure, but the stories we've looked at show something much deeper, much more complex.
Yeah, definitely more layered. We're looking at personal stories, research, interviews, things like the book Leaving Everything Behind, blogs like Cup of Thai, podcasts like The Pod Abroad, some really important research from BRYCS and UCLA and other personal reflections.
Right, and it's not just about the how-to of moving, it's about the feeling inside. That sense, like one source called it, of a quiet storm hitting your identity, your connections.
And leaving a piece of yourself behind. It's profound.
So let's start there. That idea of leaving things behind, it's not just one goodbye at the airport, is it?
No, not at all. Leaving everything behind really highlights this. It's like a whole series of goodbyes. They start way before you even leave.
Saying goodbye to your favorite coffee shop, your commute, the faces you see every day.
Exactly. And those goodbyes, they kind of keep echoing even after you've arrived, unexpectedly hitting you.
And then you land and there's this jolt, right? The shock of the new.
Absolutely. You mentioned Paulina from the Pot Abroad. Her experience in Germany, just figuring out public transport, something so basic, felt like a huge hurdle.
It's that weird mix, isn't it? You might be excited, maybe escaping something difficult, but then there's this sudden, stark fear because everything's unfamiliar. You're the outsider.
Yeah, and the BRYCS research points out that reality often clashes hard with maybe more idealistic expectations people had before they left. It can be really disorienting.
And the challenges aren't always, the big dramatic things. Sometimes it's the everyday stuff.
Totally. Like Cup of Thai's story going from a decade in corporate HR in the Philippines to working in a coffee shop in Canada, cleaning tables, taking orders. That's a massive shift.
Wow. Talk about humility.
hmm Or Paulina again, getting told off for walking in a bike lane she didn't know existed, or having that bike accident right before a crucial visa appointment, just navigating completely different rules and norms.
Things you wouldn't even think twice about back home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's often in those quiet moments, not when you're busy figuring things out, that the loneliness really hits.
Ah, yeah. Missing home, missing family, holidays.
Right, leaving everything behind talks about that ache. Paulina mentioned how hard it is not having family physically close in Germany. The Reddit discussion echoed that too, especially for people moving later in life.
Video calls help, I guess, but it's not the same, is it?
Not quite. It's learning to cope with that absence, that distance, making peace with it somehow.
So, okay, after that initial shock starts to settle, there's this next phase, right? Really grappling with the barriers, trying to find where you belong.
Yeah, and the BRYCS research with refugee youth really nails a core struggle. How do you embrace the new culture without losing your own? It's a balancing act.
What makes that so hard?
Well, several things. First, just the sheer newness of everything is overwhelming. Second, sometimes there's pressure from family, maybe back home, not to change too much, not to forget where you came from.
And then there are outside pressures, too.
Definitely. Things like negative stereotypes in the media, or maybe encountering people who aren't very welcoming. It makes trying to bridge those two worlds even tougher.
The source called it a dichotomy. What happens when you're caught in that?
It can be really isolating. People might feel pressured, depressed, even intimidated. They might pull back, hesitate to join in at school or the community.
And sadly, it can open the door to discrimination, even bullying, just for being different.
And on the flip side, if you try really hard to assimilate, there's a risk of what they call deculturation, feeling like maybe you're betraying your roots.
Like a traitor to your own culture. Wow.
Yeah. It can cause conflict within families and lead to this really painful feeling of losing your identity. Who am I, really, in all this?
It sounds incredibly difficult trying to find that balance. And then there are the practical hurdles on top of all that. Language must be a big one.
Oh, huge. We heard from Heather Chizina about needing to learn both English and French for her journey.
And it's not always straightforward, is it? Even if you have some background, like that person on Reddit, Aeolia38, struggling with French, even with some prior English, it just takes so much effort.
So much mental energy, yeah. And then there's money. Starting over often means starting from scratch financially.
Heather Chizina talked about that feeling, right? Arriving and feeling totally poor, even if she came from a higher status back in Kenya.
Exactly. And Cup of Thai, too, leaving a good corporate job and suddenly scrambling to cover basic bills in Canada.
And that pressure gets even heavier if family members get sick or injured, like with Cup of Thai's mom and husband or Heather Chizina's dad. Trying to support them when you're still finding your own feet.
It adds a whole other layer of stress, especially when your usual support network isn't physically there.
And speaking of family, the sources also brought up something really tough: family separation. The UCLA report was quite stark about this.
Yeah, it made it really clear this isn't just something from the past. It's still happening at borders because of, well, established practices and policies.
And it's not just parents and little kids, right?
No. The report details separations involving spouses, pregnant women, even adult children being separated from their parents. It affects all kinds of family structures.
That story of Lucy in the report being separated from her kids, her anguish, it's just heartbreaking.
It really is. Describing how desperate she felt. It shows the intense human cost. And the report found over 1,000 separations just by one group in San Diego in only a few months. It's a current crisis.
A really sobering reminder of the systemic challenges. And thinking of people starting this journey later in life, maybe 40s or older, that Reddit thread had some interesting points.
Yeah, finding a job without one already lined up can be a major hurdle, especially since a job is often key to getting the visa in the first place. And integrating, both professionally and socially, seems to vary a lot. For some, their experience helps. For others, it's a real struggle to find work or build new connections.
It sounds like an incredibly challenging path, but, what also really comes through in all these accounts is resilience. Amazing strength.
Absolutely. Leaving everything behind makes that point. The process itself, being pushed so far, forces you to adapt, to survive, and eventually, to thrive, turning pain into power, in a way.
What fuels that? Is it having a clear goal?
Often, yes. Like the mother in the She Who Glows video. Her absolute focus was her kids' education, their future. That clear mission kept her going.
And for some, faith plays a big role.
Heather Chazina shared how important her faith journey was, learning about stillness, about asking for what she needed. It was a source of strength and direction for her.
Community seems vital too. Having support.
Definitely. The BRYCS research actually suggests ways schools and communities can help, like promoting biculturalism, setting up peer exchanges, things that help people connect while respecting their heritage.
And you see people finding that community in different ways. Paulina found it in her master's program. Cup of Ties started her blog.
Right. And by sharing her own struggles honestly, she connected with others who felt the same way. That connection itself can be incredibly powerful.
Realizing you're not alone in it.
Exactly. And that often leads to this next step, wanting to help others who are starting out.
Like Cup of Tie, using her experiences to help other immigrants, working with Welcome Pack, becoming a financial advisor for newcomers.
Yeah, or organizations like Immigrants Rising, focusing on empowering people and building that community support. It's like coming full circle, using your hard-won knowledge to make it easier for someone else.
That's really powerful. And it shows you can kind of reinvent yourself at any stage, right? It's not just for young people.
Not at all. Cup of Tie moved into finance in her 40s. That Reddit thread was full of stories of people starting new careers, new lives, well into their 40s, 50s, even later.
It really challenges that idea that big life changes have an age limit.
It takes adaptability, for sure. A willingness to learn.
And there was that final point from Tanla's TED Talk, which I found fascinating. Seeing being an outsider as a gift.
Yeah, it's a really interesting perspective.
How did she explain that?
Well, she argues that because you're not bound by all the unspoken rules or assumptions of the new place, you see things differently, with fresh eyes.
So you might spot solutions or ideas that people inside the system miss.
Exactly. You can challenge things, maybe innovate, precisely because you have that outside perspective.
Yeah.
She talks about her mother's incredible determination, just deciding to do it, despite the risks. That kind of spirit.
That's a really compelling way to think about it. Navigating different worlds gives you a unique lens.
So when you put all these stories and insights together, you get this incredibly rich, complex picture. It's undeniably hard, the goodbyes, the shock, the loneliness, battling all sorts of barriers.
Yeah, cultural, practical, systemic ones.
Right. But you also see this immense strength, resilience, adaptability, the drive for a better future, the power of community, of faith for some, and finding real purpose in helping others.
It's not a straight line, is it? It's this ongoing journey of adjusting, finding your way, figuring out who you are now, forging a new identity.
And crucially, people on this journey, they don't just leave things behind. They bring so much with them, their courage, their culture, their stories. They genuinely enrich the places they come to.
Absolutely. They add new perspectives, new threads to the community fabric.
So maybe something for all of us to think about is this. Those layers of identity that get built when you're navigating multiple cultures. How does that shape how someone sees the world?
And what can we all learn from that kind of courage? The courage it takes to build a future while holding on to your past. That's definitely worth reflecting on.